Honourable Members, the Deputy Speaker.
Are there any constituency statements? I call the member for Fowler.
Deputy Speaker, thank you. I rise today to speak for the people of Fowler and the wider south-western Sydney community. We are increasingly feeling abandoned by this government's approach to healthcare. We hear the Labor government week after week boasting of a $6.1 billion record investment and strengthening Medicare. We hear about a universal card being the solution for all. But, Deputy Speaker, I invite the Prime Minister and the Health Minister to come to Cabramatta and Fowler, not just during election time. Come and walk into a local GP's waiting room in Liverpool or Fairfield, because the reality here is vastly different from the rosy picture painted in the Canberra bubble. The truth is, a gold card doesn't mean a golden ticket to treatment. Just last month, my constituent Lewis took a family member to Fairfield Hospital emergency with a broken ankle. They waited 6 long hours. 6 hours of waiting and waiting in pain because of a chronic shortage of doctors and nurses. And worse, they had no equipment or specialists to treat the injury and were told to go to Liverpool Hospital. That 6 hours transfer is the true measure of a strengthened Medicare in Fowler. In Fowler, we face a silent crisis. Our heroic local general practitioners are retiring. No one is replacing them. Young doctors are not coming to South West Sydney. Why should they? A GP can set up practice in affluent suburbs in the east and north, charge a high gap fee and work reasonable hours. Compare that to a GP in Fowler. Our community has a high proportion of refugees and migrants. We have high rates of chronic disease, complex mental health needs and language barriers. Our people cannot afford gap fees. They rely entirely on bulk billing. This government's incentives are a blunt instrument. They fail to recognise that a bulk billing consultation in a disadvantaged area like mine is often far more complex and time-consuming. The promised urgent care clinics are a band-aid. They may take pressure off an ED for a broken arm, but they do not manage diabetes or complex PTSD. They do not build the trust needed for vulnerable patients. Only a regular local GP does that. If we want to save universal health care, we must stop pretending that south-western Sydney is the same as the affluent east or north. I call on the government to introduce targeted geographic incentives for GPs operating in areas of high socioeconomic disadvantage. I'm asking for a Fowler loading, a specific targeted incentive that says to every bright young medical graduate, your skills are needed here. Your complex work would be valued and compensated. So please don't tell my community you're investing billions in their health while their local clinics are closing. Fund the doctor, not just the card, so my constituents can get the care that they deserve. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I call the Minister for Education.
Oh.
Sorry.
Thank you very much,
I
Deputy Speaker.
Pardon, I call the Minister for Housing and Homelessness and Cities. Is that right? No?
Well, which minister do you want?
Well, my run sheet here is all over the place. So. Minister for Education.
Thanks very much, Deputy Speaker. 2025 has been a big year, and I want to thank the people of my electorate of Blaxland for putting their trust in me again. It's the privilege of my life to represent our community in this place. And can I take the opportunity to thank them for their support, and in particular the hundreds and hundreds of people who volunteered on my election campaign. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. In particular, I want to thank my team, led by Karina Flanagan, Chris Zagopoulos and Christine Calavitas, for all of their help over now almost 18 years. In the case of Chris, even more. I would not be here without you. Mr Deputy Speaker, this has been a year of wins. We've fixed the funding of public schools, cutting student debt by 20%, and in my local community we've got Auburn Post Office back and reopened after 12 months of hard work. But it's also been a year of losses in my community where we've lost some real local Labor true believers, some dear friends of mine. Tony Ray, a former school principal, Grant Lee, a former mayor of Bankstown, Uncle Rex Sorby, a great Indigenous elder, and Vanessa McNeil, a former Holroyd councillor. And local legend, Laurie Ferguson, a former member of this place, has been really unwell and is still in hospital. and Laurie, we're all here with you and with Maureen and with the whole family. Can I wish everybody here a very, very, very Merry Christmas. This is a time that we spend with the most important people in the world, our families, our kids and our mates. And every year on the Sunday before Christmas, I get together with the fellas that I played cricket with for years. We call it Clay Day for reasons that I don't have time to explain here. We catch up and reminisce, and we talk about the old days and remember just how important we are to each other. To quote that old Irish proverb, we live in the shade of each other. And when I get together with my mates, I live in their shade for sure. So can I give them a quick shout out? Gav, Macca, Cause, Squirmer, Welster, Wyber, Bevo, Blobby, Beachy, Rinny, Choppers, George, Tink, Bert and Herbie. Merry Christmas, boys.
I call the member for Mayo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and Merry Christmas to you, Deputy Speaker, and Merry Christmas to everyone in the Parliament. And I would also like to, of course, extend those wishes to everyone in my community of Mayo. Mayo is a beautiful time at Christmas. We really do celebrate Christmas in style. I'd like to just remind everyone in my community that even though we've had a lot of wet weather, the bushfire season is upon us, and it's not too late to be bushfire ready. We do have the algal bloom in South Australia this summer, but that shouldn't detract us from spending time on our beaches. It's not on every beach, not on every day, and our Mayo beaches and our beachside communities are wonderful places to spend the summer, and so I really do encourage everyone still to go down, whether it's to Victor or to Yankalilla or anywhere in between. Do go along to our beachside townships. They really need our support this summer. I'd like to just remind everyone in our community about road safety. Unfortunately, Mayo has a very high proportion of South Australia's crashes, and so we need to make sure that we all slow down on the roads. And I think that that's a nationwide message. Make sure that we all slow down on our roads so that we can be there for Christmas with our family. And when you're in Mayo this summer, make sure, and particularly over Christmas, try and shop local wherever you can. It is so important for our community. So many of our small businesses really are doing it tough, and we need to do everything we can to support them. I'd like to acknowledge everyone who's going to be working over that Christmas season. Our emergency workers, our nurses, our fireys, right the way across Christmas, even those, they never get acknowledged, but everyone who's in the service stations working on Christmas Day, thank you for what you do for the rest of us to make sure that our country keeps running. And I would also like to, on that, acknowledge our farmers across Australia. There will be many farmers who will be getting up and working on Christmas morning, particularly dairy farmers, and they will be working on Christmas night too, and they're not necessarily getting double time. So I'd like to really acknowledge the farmers. And I'd like to close, Deputy Speaker, by acknowledging my team. I have an extraordinary team. Many of them have been with me for several years. I like to think that all of us in here, we can sail across the water like ducks, like swans across the water, and that's simply because we all have an extraordinary team of staff that are doing the hard work, those legs paddling very fast underneath us. So I'd really like to acknowledge my team, those who travelled to Canberra, those in my electorate office, and I wish everyone a very safe and Merry Christmas.
I call the Minister for Housing, Homelessness and Cities.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. I absolutely love Christmas, and one of my favourite traditions is our annual Christmas drawing competition in Hotham. Every year, students from right across my electorate enter a competition to see who gets the cover of our annual Christmas card. And I actually honestly believe, Speaker, I have the most talented and creative young people in the whole of the country living in my electorate, because you would not believe the entries that I get to be the judge of. So today I'm very excited to announce that our 2025 winner is Grace from Sacred Heart Primary School in Oakley. Grace has made this incredibly beautiful Christmas drawing, Speaker. She's only 10 years old, and we just cannot believe this. My staff and I keep looking at her beautiful drawing, just wondering where this brilliant talent comes from. We are so impressed with you, Grace, and your beautiful talents in art, and we're very excited to share your Christmas card with the entire electorate. It was a close-fought thing, though, Speaker. We had a few runners-up this year. Amelie from Braddon Park Primary School, Wheelers Hill, Violet from St Andrews Primary School in Clayton South, and Isla from Oakley Primary School. And your wonderful entries will also be featured on this year's Christmas card. To all of the students who took the time to take part in this, I really want to thank you. And can I let you and your families know that we set up a little art gallery in my office through the Christmas period, and if you would like to see your artwork on display, then please come and visit my electorate office in Oakley. Speaker, earlier this month we had a really important celebration in my local community, and that was the 150th anniversary of Oakley Primary School. This is more than a number. It's a testament to generations of learning, growth and community spirit that have come out of this incredible educational institution in my electorate. I want to say my thanks and acknowledgement to Principal Ruth Biddle, who is a very visionary education leader right across the South East. And Ruth's leadership and her belief in every student's potential make this school such a special place. I want to acknowledge all of the teachers and the staff and families who gathered in their hundreds in what was unfortunately quite a rainy day, but gathered in this beautiful school to celebrate what it's done for the children of my electorate. Oakley Primary has been a cornerstone of Oakley since 1875. And back then, it was really visionary locals that put this place really in place as a country primary school, Speaker. But of course, Melbourne grew up around it, and Oakley Primary has been really at the centre of everything critical that's happened to my local community over 150 years. Of course, the Greek influence is there. We've had the Protopo Greek School led by Principal Maria Gindidis, which has been a really important part of keeping Greek language alive in my community. So I want to say congratulations to Oakley Primary School. I love you guys so much, and 150 years, well done. Let's go for 150 more.
I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. At just 31 years old, Chris Ross faced the devastating news of a motor neurone disease terminal diagnosis. Chris faced a choice and chose to live his life to help others fighting MND. With friends Josh Newman and Josh Webster, he launched Beat the Beast and Run for Rossi, an annual event raising awareness, hope and funds for MND research. Their bold mission was $1 million for a cure. Chris passed in August 2023, but his vision lives on. Run for Rossi, led by a dedicated committee including Chris's mum, Karen Ross, a wonderful human being, Chris's brother, Ben Ross, Chair John McCluskey, Sian Davey, Lisa Bugg, Gay Findlay and Erin Ford, continues his incredible legacy. This year's Run for Rossi event was the biggest yet, partnering with Fight MND to announce a research grant in Chris's honour. Every dollar raised supports this grant and brings us closer to a cure. Run for Rossi has raised $131,000 in 2025 and nearly $500,000 since 2021. To help Karen and the team take more steps towards beating the beast, I've donated, and I hope others will too, by going to beatthebeast.me/run-for-Rossi. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The best thing we can do to combat loneliness and support each other is to turn to our neighbours. Since 1982, Neighbourhood Watch has brought volunteer residents together to be the first line of safety for the community, and Bayside Neighbourhood Watch was founded a year later in 1983. Each volunteer is precious and sews a stitch in our community's social fabric. And to thank them for their incredible service, 2 Saturdays ago, Neighbourhood Watch Bayside held their big thank you picnic at Brighton's Ballilla. Hundreds soaked up fleeting sunshine with live entertainment, local artists and classic cars, with the local Lions Club of Brighton sizzling sausages with scones galore. To celebrate outstanding contributions, the inaugural Ken Beadle Award was awarded to Ken Beadle, the former Bayside Mayor and long-time Neighbourhood Watch champion, but no doubt there will be many worthy recipients in the years to come. We thank all the volunteers, but also those that provide the leadership to Neighbourhood Watch Bayside, including their President and MC, Phil Lovell, to the event coordinator, Jeff Bransbury, and event curator, Michelle Larragee. But I just want to say to everybody who's involved with Neighbourhood Watch in Bayside, in Glen Eira, in Kingston and across Australia, thank you so much for the wonderful work that you do. You keep our community safe, you keep us strong, and more importantly, you keep us connected, particularly those who don't have necessarily the full support or assistance they have from their family or from their friends. And the work you do ensures that we all stay safe. Thank you very much.
I call the member for Blair.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. During the recent debate on the government's reforms on the national environmental legislation, I didn't get the opportunity to speak on the bill, so I want to take the opportunity to congratulate Minister Murray Watt and the Prime Minister in terms of the agreement that's been reached in relation to the Environment Protection, Biodiversity and Conservation Act and the impact it will have beneficially for my electorate. The new streamlined assessment pathway will significantly reduce the timeframe for proponents to provide sufficient information up front and provide an incentive to meet the standards up front, deliver faster decisions, saving businesses time and money. A new and improved bilateral agreement with the states will remove duplication for the assessment and approval of projects. And the reality is that in the Ipswich area, the current laws are holding up critical housing and road projects. Some housing developments in Ipswich have been in limbo for 5 years as a result of green tape and the EPBC approvals, delaying vital housing supply in the middle of a housing crisis. And on top of this, the EPBC requirements and associated ecological assessments for the much-needed Mount Crosby Road interchange upgrade on the Warrego Highway in my electorate, a major freight and commuter corridor which has seen the finalisation of the design pushed back by around 18 months. So the laws are costing business time and money and strangling homes and infrastructure we need. This was a big theme coming out of a local Blair Growth and Productivity Roundtable I held in August this year, as well as the Treasurer's National Economic Reform Roundtable. Going forward, the government's reforms will tackle the underlying causes of these delays while also delivering greater protection for nature. It's not an either-or. Indeed, what we're doing in my electorate will benefit both business and the environment. During the last election, I was proud to announce a $1.2 million commitment from Labor towards Goodness Enterprises Koala Rehabilitation and Education Centre at the Goodness Chua Conservation Parklands in Tivoli on the north side of Ipswich. This builds on our support for local environment groups and projects in Blair during the last term under the government's $76 million Saving Koala Fund. We've invested $3 million to the Urban Rivers and Catchment Program to improve habitat for species like platypus, the Queensland lungfish and the Bremer, Woogaroo and Brisbane catchments in the Ipswich region. So you don't have to choose between the environment and business. It's not a zero-sum game. We need to get this done to deliver for what the Australian people have voted us for here to do. Establish a national environmental protection agency, strengthen protection for native forests and create a $300 million forestry growth fund to support jobs. These reforms are good for the environment, they're good for jobs, they're good for certainty and good for industry. I am very pleased to hear the announcement today by the Prime Minister and Minister Murray Watt. This will be a win for the environment and for urgently needed housing in Ipswich and critical infrastructure and the national economy.
I call the member for Latrobe.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I recently had the great privilege of joining the Kenyan Australian Community for Tarnet Nell organisation for the 3rd Cultural Fashion Show, and I've been to many of their events. This celebration was a true to the Kenyan and Kalyan heritage and a fantastic display of culture, tradition, community spirit, and also done in an alcohol-free environment. I was deeply honoured to be joined by the elders of the Kenyan Australian community who bestowed upon me the ceremony elder's stick. And also, I was very privileged, they actually gave me a Kenyan name, Art Kalya, meaning man of peace in the Kalyan language, and it was truly a great honour. I am very humbled by this gesture and thank the Chairman, Charles Ruti, Events Director Nikki Bolt and all the members of the Tarnet Nell organisation for their warm welcome and hospitality. As always, it's a fantastic event. The event was much more than a fashion pageant. It was about confidence, culture, character giving of our Kenyan Australian community, a platform to share their talents, their dreams and their identity with pride, which is precisely what they did. These events help our youth connect with their roots, understand their heritage and build resilience. Congratulations again and thanks to Tanet Nell for 3 years of service to the Kenyan Australian community. Mr Deputy Speaker, also had the honour of attending the welcoming event for the Pacific Australian Emerging Leaders Summit, known as PALS. I acknowledge the Governor-General, Her Excellency the Honourable Sam Mosslin, AC, the Pacific High Commissioners and the great work they do, Reverend Tim Costello, who's done an amazing job with the foundation of MICA, Matt Davis of MICA Australia, and the delegates who attended this summit. This was a very powerful reminder that the Pacific is one family, well-being and interconnected. Our future is bound together by ocean that links us rather than divides us. For 4 years now, PALS has brought together emerging leaders from 16 Pacific nations and Australia. Many of these leaders are young people of faith and service already leading today, and courage and commitment. And as I said to them, with the average age of the Pacific population of 50% being 23, they are not the future leaders or emerging leaders, they are the leaders of today. And their decisions to help shape issues such as climate resistance, economic development, security and social wellbeing is so important. The framework, the Pacific we see, offers a unifying vision of our flourishing Pacific grounded in tradition and relationships. And again, I acknowledge the great work of MICA Australia and Pacific Conference of Churches and DFAT officers for putting this event on. And again, I was greatly honoured to meet all these Pacific Island leaders and doing incredible work. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Honourable members, if I might just remind you all to keep your private conversations to a minimal level, that would be helpful. Thank you. I call the Assistant Minister for Mental Health and Suicide Prevention, Rural and Regional Health.
Deputy Speaker, I am proud to have secured an endometriosis and pelvic pain clinic for the Central Coast. The clinic will be located within the Central Coast Community Women's Health Centre in Wyoming and is due to open early in the new year. It will provide multidisciplinary care for endometriosis and pelvic pain, as well as providing support for women like me seeking support for perimenopause and menopause. Endometriosis affects at least 1 in 7 Australian women and can have a devastating impact on their daily lives, with pelvic pain being similarly debilitating. The Albanese government is rolling out 33 clinics across Australia, a key part of the government's landmark Women's Health package, investing almost $800 million in funding to deliver improved healthcare and access for women and girls. Through the Central Coast Community Women's Health Centre, local women and girls will have a place where they can access the specialist care they need close to home. Sarah Foster, CEO of the Central Coast Community Women's Health Centre, said, and I quote, "This investment builds on the strong foundation of care our team already provides and enables us to offer even more responsive, multidisciplinary, women-centred health services for women on the coast who experience disadvantage or barriers to care." Deputy Speaker, summer on the coast just got even better with the reopening of Vera's Water Garden. I was proud to deliver $750,000 for this project as part of a more than $1 million revitalisation package for the entrance. This funding has provided a new water play equipment and a zero-depth splash design. And I'm delighted that Central Coast Council listened to feedback from right across the community, including myself, and kept Vera. After all, there isn't a Vera's Water Garden without our much-loved Vera. Vera has been watching over the entrance foreshore for nearly 30 years, and with this investment and the strong community campaign to protect Vera, she'll be around for many more. Deputy Speaker, I've heard from locals right across the Central Coast who have visited the Lakehaven Medicare Urgent Care Clinic. Because of its convenient location at the Lakehaven Shopping Centre and offering fully bulk billed care 7 days a week over extended hours. In fact, since opening in 2023, 27,000 locals have visited the clinic. Locals like Marion from Warnervale, who said, and I quote, "After experiencing a deep cut on my hand, I sought treatment at the urgent care clinic at Lakehaven. From reception through to treatment, the care I received was brilliant. I am grateful to have had access to professional and expedient care close to home." That's why at the election, as part of our plan to strengthen Medicare, I was proud to commit to expanding the clinic to meet growing need. Now we're delivering on that commitment with funding to grow the workforce, extend opening hours and remodel the treatment spaces. We're also opening a 3rd Medicare urgent care clinic in the coming months to deliver care closer to home for people right across the Central Coast.
I call the member for Longman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise today to speak on a subject that most of us will deal with during our lifetime, ageing. Whether it be our own experiences or assisting our elderly friends and family members, most of us will deal with the aged care system. As a member for Longman, I often receive negative feedback regarding the aged care system. Whilst there are countless individuals who provide exceptional aged care services, sadly not everyone has access to such services when they need it. The feedback I receive is often disappointing. To hear stories of seniors who spend extended time in our hospitals due to a lack of services and spaces in nursing homes is not a sign of a functional aged care system. Not only does this result in poor outcomes for our senior citizens, but it also results in poor outcomes for the greater community as hospital beds are limited. This temporary solution to the lack of adequate aged care facilities, in conjunction with the government's decision to walk back on their 2023 promise to provide better funding to hospitals, is only exacerbating the issues surrounding health and aged care. It's clear to me that something needs to be done to improve the aged care system, which will remove some of the strain from our hospitals. It's my hope that common sense will prevail and that these issues will be addressed as a matter of urgency for the sake of our senior citizens. Deputy Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and hopefully a more prosperous 2026. Christmas is a wonderful time where people tend to forget about the challenges in life as they relax over the festive season in the new year. This, of course, is a great reflection on the true meaning of Christmas, the birth of Jesus Christ, and one of his promises, of course, is that for those who follow him, that he will help alleviate their burdens. It's also the time of year when I often see the best in people in the Longman community, people putting the needs of others before their own and helping out others less fortunate than themselves. The toy drive that grows every year despite the difficult economic climate that many people face right now makes me incredibly proud to represent this community. Our church community continues to flourish as they go about doing good, helping the homeless with meals and shelter, as well as victims of domestic violence and others doing it tough, not just at Christmas time, but all year round. I, for one, am grateful that Jesus showed us how people should treat one another, and I know that many people in Longman and around this great country will honour his sacrifice by attending church services this Christmas, and rightly so. Merry Christmas, everyone.
I call the member for Isaacs.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It gives me immense pleasure to congratulate Olivia Carroll, who was with us in the chamber, on being awarded the winner of Australia's My First Speech 2025 in the Year 11 category. This national competition invites senior secondary students in years 10, 11 and 12 to imagine themselves as newly elected members of Parliament as they deliver a short speech on an issue they care deeply about. It helps young Australians engage with our democratic process. Olivia is a constituent in my electorate of Isaacs, and I'm exceptionally proud of her achievement. She attends Kilbreda College in Mentone, and I know her school, her friends, her mum Gail and her late father Paul would all be very proud of her. I will now read Olivia's speech, which reflects the thoughtfulness, care and conviction she brought to this competition. She wrote, and she spoke. Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise today on the occasion of my first speech to talk about an issue that is close to my heart, organ donation. Specifically, the need to encourage more Aussies to take just 1 minute to register as a donor. I know firsthand the impact of organ donation and the incredible joy and comfort it can provide families. My dad became my hero not just in life, but also in death by donating his organs and saving the lives of 3 people. My auntie is a living donor who selflessly donated a kidney to my grandfather, giving us an extra 5 years with him. These are just a few of the stories from over 7,000 organ donors across the country. Still, we can't forget that over 2,000 Australians are still waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. These are parents, children, friends, colleagues and our fellow Australians. Real people hoping for a second chance at life. While 4 out of 5 of us support organ donation, only 36% are registered to donate. Worse still, new registrations dropped by almost 5,400 in 2024. There are no strangers in this country, only mates who we haven't met yet. And some of them are in desperate need of help. 1 minute, That's all it takes to register and give someone a second chance at life. Olivia's speech ends with a resounding call to action. I thank Olivia for her contribution to this competition and the maturity and care she has shown in raising such an important issue. Her speech is a reminder of the strength and compassion we see in young people across our country. It's encouraging to see students engaging so thoughtfully with national issues and with the work of this parliament. I again congratulate Olivia on this well-deserved achievement.
I call the member for Monash.
Deputy Speaker, Trevor Colvin was a lion of the Trafalgar community. Trevor was passionate about journalism and rose to serve with distinction at The Age newspaper. In 2023, Trevor relaunched a local paper that had fallen silent, the Traff District News. With every edition, he restored a voice to the town and provided a historical record for its generations to come. Trevor also volunteered at the Traff Market, organised music events in the Town Hall and supported men's mental health. He was a valued member of the Great Latrobe Committee, and I only saw Trevor recently at the Warrigal premiere of Just a Farmer, a film that spoke to the struggles of rural Australians, struggles Trevor genuinely cared about and worked to illuminate. Trevor will be missed by his daughters Inga and Narita and his wife Susie, in whose arms he passed just days before their 39th wedding anniversary. Trevor's legacy lives on through his family and the Traff News. Deputy Speaker, Helen is a nurse from Warrigal who cares for people with cancer at our local hospital. When her husband Alan passed away from a long and painful terminal illness last year, it took 256 days for Helen to receive her husband's death benefit from Australian Super. After many requests from Helen, Australian Super offered her $50.75 in compensation. $50.75 for holding over $200,000 over 8 months. Imagine the returns Helen could have received, the interest if she'd stuck that money in the bank. Worse still, Helen's husband, Alan, wanted to access the terminal illness early payout on that super before he died to gift to his children in person. The emotional toll inflicted on Alan in his final weeks fighting to access his own money is an absolute disgrace by Australian Super. Helen has since appealed the $50.75 compensation and been sent another letter from Australian Super avoiding any clarification or acknowledgement of the disastrous and distressing handling of her late husband's superannuation. I have sent letters on behalf of Helen to Australian Super. The cold arrogance, the defiance of human decency is astounding. Now, I have asked the question, is there a mandated minimum time in which superannuation companies need to pay beneficiaries after a death? The answer from ASIC is no, there is not a mandated minimum. It is as soon as practicable. I believe this should be reviewed. I am pleased that the Minister for Financial Services is in the chamber to listen to Helen's story. And to Helen, I say I will continue to fight on your behalf because you deserve so much better.
I call the member for McEwen.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to celebrate the sod turn of two great local projects being delivered in our community by this government. First of all, the Macedon Ranges Sports Precinct Stage 2. It was my great pleasure last week to join the now Mayor of Macedon Ranges Shire, Kate Kendall, and I congratulate her on her appointment, to turn the sod on Stage 2 of Macedon Ranges Sports Precinct. Stage 1, of course, was already delivered over $29 million worth of much-needed recreational amenities to the Macedon Ranges in the regional area. It includes a 3-court sports stadium, a natural grass AFL cricket oval and a multifunction pavilion, and a variety of associated indoor and outdoor amenities. Now, Stage 2 is set to expand on these facilities significantly. The Albanese Labor government committed and has delivered $15 million of the $17 million for Stage 2 project, which pork barrel, and that's a great one, which nearly double the current sports stadium capacity, adding 3 more courts. The expansion also includes additional AFL cricket oval, 2 outdoor sports courts, and improves car parking to landscaping, ensuring the precinct remains a world-class venue for sports and community activities. It is great news for our community. Stage 2 will ensure that we can accommodate more sporting participants and better recreational facilities for our growing community and enhance the Macedon Ranges as a regional community hub. We fought long and hard for this to get done because a generation of our kids missed out on sporting facilities because the former government, for 10 years, absolutely refused to fund this. In fact, they went to 3 elections not doing, but also telling the community through the member for colour-coded sports sheets in Senator Mackenzie, put an application in, but it never happened. In fact, they couldn't even find the decency to help this generation of kids throughout this region. But under an Albanese Labor government, it's promise made, promise kept. Another great example, of course, is Yan Yean. Well, maybe we'll look forward to you actually getting one right one day, but we won't hold our breath. We've also started work on Yan Yean Road Stage 2. Now, this has been a much-needed project that has been suffered with growing communities not having access to the infrastructure they need. Of course, we know those opposite proudly talk about how they only gave Victoria 7% of infrastructure funding throughout their 9 years, which meant our roads crumbled and things weren't done. But of course, when we get into government, we address that. We have helped fix that problem by giving Stage 2 the funding that it was necessary to get it done. This is a government that actually goes out and gets things done, and it's another one of our story where we can say a promise made is a promise kept, and the only way you get infrastructure into regional areas is not vote LNP.
I call the member for Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Today I rise to pay tribute to the life and service of Brother William Furman. Brother Bill, as he was known to all, passed away in Launceston on the 15th of November 2025 after a short illness. He was 82 years old. Brother Bill joined the De La Salle brothers on the 13th of January 1962 at the age of just 18. For more than 60 years he dedicated his life to faith, education and service. Brother Bill embodied the La Sallian charism, placing the dignity of every young person at the heart of his work. His vocation was not simply a profession, it was a calling with humility and unwavering commitment. I had the privilege of knowing Brother Bill during his time as my headmaster of St Bede's College in Mentone. He was a truly remarkable man. Brother Bill was a man of deep integrity and quiet strength, and he enjoyed the profound respect of both students and staff. His leadership was marked by fairness, compassion and a genuine concern for the well-being of every boy in his care. Those of us who knew him saw firsthand the way he inspired excellence, not only in academics, but sport, but most importantly in character. Brother Bill's passing is a great loss to the La Sallian family and to Catholic education in Australia. Yet his legacy endures in the countless lives he shaped and the values he championed. I and thousands of Australian men today are who we are in large part due to the influence of Brother William Furman. Brother Bill impressed upon us the importance of our school motto, and it is something that I continue to try to live my life by: Pervius Rectus, by right paths. On behalf of this House, I extend our deepest condolences to his fellow brothers, his family and the communities he served. May he rest in peace. Vale, Brother William Furman. Mr Deputy Speaker, I also want to acknowledge the passing of Ian Levers, APM. Ian was a frontline officer, a union leader and a steadfast advocate for the Queensland Police Service. His leadership was marked by conviction and an unshakable commitment to those who wear our uniform. He brought that same passion to his role as Queensland's first cross-border commissioner, working to address the real challenges facing border communities and improving the lives of countless officers and their families. I also want to recognise the toll that service can take. As someone who works closely with mental health advocates in my own community, I know how important it is that we talk openly about men's mental health and support those who carry heavy burdens on behalf of others. To Ian's family, friends and the Queensland Police Service, I extend my sincere condolences on behalf of this place. His passing leaves a real void and he will be deeply missed. Vale, Ian Levers.
I call the Where am I up to here? It's Chisholm, the member for Chisholm.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. Last Friday evening, I was delighted to host my 4th Community Spirit and Leadership Award ceremony. Every year, I ask each principal from schools in the Chisholm electorate to nominate a student who best embodies the community spirit intent of this award. The event is all about giving recognition to the many young people who make a positive difference in our Chisholm community. It was so heartwarming to read the many reasons why students were nominated for the award. Students who display great kindness and compassion to their school peers, students with a passion for social justice, students who volunteer to support those in need, students who have a positive attitude to learning, and students who are fantastic role models for younger students and display great leadership skills. These are the 2025 award winners. From Ashburton Primary School, Kalinga Berg. From Ashwood High School, Leah Reid. From Ashwood School, Robbie Saab. From Avila College, Orla Hinya. From Brentwood Secondary College, Daniel Wojak. Burwood East Primary School, Isabella Yee. Camelot Rise Primary School, Tiara Grover. MIS College, Jamison Carter. Glen Iris Primary School, Alex Chen. Glen Waverley Primary School, Joshua Varney. Glen Waverley South Primary School, Raiden McAllister Meehan. Hartwell Primary School, Olivia Avram. Highville Secondary College, Alexia Bastos. Holly Family School, Lauren Bernardo. Hunting Tower School, Mimi Roberts. Lloyd Street Primary School, Matilda King. Malvern Valley Primary School, Paige Mills. Mount Waverley Primary School, Srilasia Kapara. Mount Waverley Secondary College, Catherine Farden. Park Hill Primary School, Sage Yu. Presbyterian Ladies College, Tanvi Nair. Sacre-Cœur, Gabrielle Noonan. Solway Primary School, Jensen McLean. St Cecilia's Primary School, Michaela Jass. St Justin's Parish Primary School, Talia Iazolino. St Mary's Primary School, Amalia Punch. St Rock's Primary School, Kimberly Cheng. St Scholastica's Primary School, Ellie Kavoris. Sindel South Primary School, Amia Madusadin. And Waverley Meadows Primary School, Kira Turns. Finally, I would like to thank the following people and organisations for their support in making the ceremony such a great success. The Principal of Avila College in Mount Waverley, Michelle Cotter, thanks for hosting the event. To the Cloud Concert Youth Orchestra for their string quartet, Alan, Carlos, James and David. To Waverley Enterprises for their catering, a great organisation that provides secure employment to people with disabilities in the area. Thank you. To my wonderful staff who work so hard with me for our community, and to my state colleague, John Malahi MP, the member for Glen Waverley, for his assistance as MC. Congratulations to everyone, and Merry Christmas, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. I call the member for McPherson.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Over the past few weeks, I've had the privilege of engaging with a wide range of groups across our wonderful Southern Gold Coast community, each highlighting the strength, diversity and spirit that make our region so special. I recently had the pleasure of attending and presenting at one of the regular afternoon tea meetings hosted by the Gold Coast Retirees Incorporated. This association plays a vital role in keeping our retirees connected, informed and engaged, and I thank President Mark Morell for his commitment to this initiative. I was grateful for the opportunity to speak with members about the issues that matter most to them and to acknowledge the invaluable contribution that they make to our community. Another highlight this month was joining the 90th birthday celebrations at TriCare in Clear Island Waters. It was an absolute joy to celebrate with residents, including Imelda, Jill and Anne, who each turned 90 as they marked this incredible milestone. Moments like these remind us of the importance of community, connection and celebrating the lives and stories of those who helped shape the Gold Coast that we enjoy today. I also had the opportunity to host the Madrabar Chamber of Commerce for an afternoon of discussion and collaboration at my office. Our small businesses are the backbone of our local economy, and hearing directly from business owners about their challenges and their successes is essential in being able to best support them. Special thanks must go to President John Kennedy, his executive and all members who attended and continue to advocate for the needs of small businesses across our community. I recently welcomed the Australian Political Exchange Council's 37th delegation from the United States, giving them a glimpse of the very best the Gold Coast has to offer. The delegation included state legislators, mayors, senior government officials and policy leaders from across the United States. It was an honour to showcase our community, to exchange ideas and to strengthen the ties between our two nations. And finally, I had a wonderful visit to Arcadia College in Robina, where I joined a group of students and taught a civics class and a bit about how to work as part of a team in federal parliament, but also the role of a federal member of parliament and how the different levels of government work. Encouraging young people to participate in our democracy is something I'm deeply passionate about, and their curiosity and enthusiasm were truly inspiring. I'd like to also thank Arcadia's dedicated teaching staff who have been shepherding students through the lessons on government and civics. Each of these moments reflect what I love most about representing the Gold Coast, the opportunity to connect with people, to listen and to play a part in strengthening our community. Thank you to everyone I've met in recent months. You continue to inspire me and I'm proud to serve you.
I call the Assistant Treasurer, Minister for Financial Services.
Deputy Speaker, as we reach the end of the year, Black Friday, Christmas and Boxing Day sales are great to find a bargain. However, I would like to reflect on the often forgotten people who make our holiday shopping possible. Workers for Amazon are highly casualised, work long hours while their multinational employer reaps billions in profits. Amazon flex drivers earn under the minimum wage in many cases because there are no standards yet in place. And in addition, there are so many instances of individuals recounting stressful incidents at work due to inappropriate practices. Amazon has been resistant to unionisation efforts, but the union movement, particularly the SDA and the TWU, are campaigning for change and have been fighting hard for workers' rights since Amazon opened in Australia. The government passed laws that make it easier for unions to put in applications to put appropriate standards in place. Amazon may lead in technology and innovation, but its approach to worker involvement and worker voice lags. Worker voice is not only fair, it adds to productivity and should be embraced. This week is Make Amazon Pay Week. This is a call for the company to respect the rights of their workers and to engage fairly and transparently. And I back in those calls in this chamber. Deputy Speaker, it was a pleasure to attend this year's federal parliamentary interfaith breakfast with faith leaders from my community. This event is one of the most significant events on the parliamentary calendar, and I appreciate the opportunity to invite leaders from Fraser to Parliament. Faith groups are extremely important in my electorate. They are so often intertwined with multiculturalism, providing a place to celebrate and preserve culture, while also being involved so often with practical community services, supporting members of the community, particularly assisting new arrivals settling into Australia. I recognise that people of all faiths are facing challenges and that strong interfaith relationships are essential for encouraging constructive dialogue between political and religious and broader leaders within the community and helping to maintain unity among Australians. I thank representatives from faith groups who made the trek to Canberra, from the Quang Minh Temple, the Venerable Thich Phuoc Tan, from the Australian Light Foundation, Fatih and Aitan Yagi, from the Australian Bosnian Islamic Centre, Swad Ibizovic, from Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception and the Chin community, Father Lal Zin Thang and Jacob Thang, and from St Ilya Macedonian Orthodox Church, Michael Pavlevsky. Our multicultural and multi-faith community is key to Australia's success, and I'm grateful to everyone from my community who attended this year's breakfast and more broadly across our community from all that you do day in, day out to make our community that much stronger.
I call the member for Nichols.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In the Nationals, we often talk about bringing common sense to Canberra, and I can tell you that this is needed more than ever. The Albanese government doesn't seem to get regional Australia, trying to get farmers to pay for biosecurity, trying to tax unrealised capital gains and superannuation accounts of farmers and small businesses, and threatening the viability of small pharmacies that are often the only frontline health service in regional towns. Now, those attempts all failed, but the backflips are continuing. In another win for common sense, the proposal to drop the default speed on unsigned country roads to 70 kilometres an hour has been dumped. This was a bad idea, created in Canberra without any understanding of how regional communities actually live, work and travel. It ignored the realities of regional life, long distances, freight, farm work, emergency services and families who simply can't afford to lose more time on the road. It was an idea so bad there was not only pushback from regional communities, regional Labor members didn't want it either. And instead of wasting resources on silly ideas, the government must invest in money to repair and maintain our roads. Regional drivers are fed up with dodging potholes, repairing busted wheels and slowing down at roadworks only to see them washed out after a couple of months. The second backflip, another win for common sense, came with Labor abandoning its attempt to weaken the integrity of the Defence Honours and Awards appeals system. And I want to pay tribute to my colleague, the member for Gippsland, and a champion of veterans for leading the campaign against those changes. Veterans who contacted me were worried, frustrated and feeling overlooked, and these changes would have stripped the rights away from the very people who have served our nation, and there are a number of people who wouldn't have received much-deserved awards had these changes been in place for some years. Thankfully, they're not going to be in place at all. These examples speak to a broader pattern of misplaced priorities and missteps from this government. And meanwhile, regional funding programs that should be providing practical help in our communities have either been scrapped or starved of new funding. People are coming to me in my community saying, we really need this piece of infrastructure, we really need that. And I say, well, the cupboard's bare because there's no allocation in the Growing Communities program. Regional Australia deserves better from this government. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I call the member for Menzies.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise today to speak about the extraordinary young people in Menzies. Over the past few weeks, I've been very fortunate to visit some of our local secondary and primary schools and even childcare centres, as well as hosting some young activists in my office. I'd like to thank the Minister for Education, Jason Clare, for visiting Box Hill High with me and speaking with some of the school leaders from years 8 to 11. These young people had a particular interest in our under-16 social media ban and the implications of artificial intelligence. I was particularly impressed by how articulate and informed these students were and how nuanced their views were on these complex issues. I also had the privilege of hosting a youth roundtable in partnership with the Centre for Multicultural Youth and the Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network, together with my good friend, the member for Deakin. I would like to sincerely thank Carmel from the Centre for Multicultural Youth and Rana from the Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network for their commitment and tireless work in the multicultural youth space. Now, I'm sure, like a lot of my fellow parliamentarians, if I had to do a media appearance, I would anticipate some of the questions and prepare accordingly. But there is no preparing for the questions a group of Year 5s would throw at us. Some went right to the heart of why we are here, like, if you could change one thing about Australia, what would it be? Others went to how our democracy works. But I was also asked probing questions like, what is your favourite colour? What brand of microwave do you have? And can you share your salary with me? I even visited some of my youngest constituents at Creative Play Early Learning Centre in Bulleen with Minister for Early Childhood Education and Minister for Youth, Jess Walsh. I'd like to thank the Minister for coming out to Menzies to visit these young constituents. There, I met with the Director, Georgina, a passionate childhood educator who had been working in the industry for over 25 years. I was very happy to celebrate with her and her team the 15% pay rise that will come into place on the 1st of December, delivered by the Albanese Labor government. For too long, our early childhood educators have not been properly compensated, and it was wonderful to see them recognised for the essential and skilled work that they do. When we arrived at the childcare centre, we found a small whiteboard with some questions 3- and 4-year-olds had prepared beforehand. 2 that stood out were, how did you become an important person? And how do you grow more bones? I'd like to thank all the young people and children in Menzies for your engagement and curiosity. You are our future, and our future is in good hands. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I call the member for Wide Bay.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. Queensland was doing it tough after breaking away from New South Wales in 1859, but everything changed in 1867 when prospector James Nash struck gold. 75 ounces of it, at Gympie in Queensland. The discovery kicked off a huge gold rush that turned the state's fortunes around and led to the founding of Gympie, the town that saved Queensland and therefore the state of origin. The Gympie Gold Rush Festival was created to celebrate this incredible history and the role of the gold rush and it played in shaping Queensland. From its first event in 1973 right through to 2020, the festival brought the community together. Locals, businesses, schools and community groups all chipped in to create a lively mix of entertainment and activities that honoured Gympie's colourful past and showed off just how vibrant the town is today. For me, the festival was also a little bit special. It was one of the first places I took Sharon, my wife, in 1989 on a date. So I've got a special place for the Gold Rush. Unfortunately, the festival came to a halt during COVID-19 pandemic and a lack of funding has stopped it from returning since. But the good news is there's a real buzz about town to bring back the Gympie Gold Rush Festival in 2026, just in time for Gympie's 160th birthday celebrations in 2027. A passionate group of volunteers headed up by my mate Mal Dodd to bring the festival back is forming and they're working hard. The plan is for a 2-week celebration in October 26, packed with sports, arts, entertainment and plenty of events that highlight the region's beauty and history, including a special Mary Valley Rattler Gold Rush train and finishing with the return of the iconic Mary Street Parade and community celebration. Just like the Gold Rush days, Gympie continues to attract people from all walks of life, drawn by the relaxed lifestyle, natural landscape and endless opportunities for outdoor adventure. Of course, putting on a festival like this takes funding and people power. I'll be working with the organisers to help with that so we can help bring this much-loved event back and celebrate the heritage of the town that saved Queensland. So please consider #Wait for Gold Rush.
I call the member for Swan.
Speaker, when Western Australia is strong, Australia is strong, but strength takes many forms. Sometimes strength is kindness. Sometimes strength is about listening, and sometimes calling for help takes strength. That spirit was on display when Federal Cabinet visited WA. There were many visits that happened, which was phenomenal, and it was such a special moment to see some of the amazing ways that this Albanese Labor government is tangibly changing the lives of so many people. One of the highlights was the Minister for the NDIS, who visited an organisation called Healthy Strides in East Victoria Park, a success story in WA born from the vision of a woman called Dr. Dana Poole, who created a centre where kids with neurological conditions and other disabilities don't just access Australian leading therapy, in fact, world leading therapy. Her first participant was a boy, and now he's a teenager with cerebral palsy, and he spoke to the Minister through his text-to-speech device and described the differences of the therapy that he was accessing and how the supports of the NDIS and Healthy Stride made his life so much fabulous. He also talked about the death of his mother and how challenging that was, but how he continued to be able to have the strength to continue to do his therapy and be an incredible young man, and giving him the chance to do more for himself and participate more fully in his life. And one of the things that he talked about is how his mum just always said yes, which I think is fantastic, as opposed to saying no. And so what we saw is the power of scientific innovation and compassion and why the NDIS matters. The Minister for Social Services and the Deputy Minister and also the Assistant Treasurer for Finance joined me at Advocare in my electorate, the state's peak body for seniors, and we hosted a roundtable on financial abuse, an issue that is often hidden but has devastating impacts. And we continued to have a conversation that began last term, which started the financial abuse inquiry, which I instigated. And more than listening, we're actually acting as well. And we're doing so much work in this area, which includes reform, so victim survivors aren't left with Centrelink debts caused by perpetrators, and also boosting frontline support for victim survivors. And so this week we saw that the government announced a $42 million increase for 1800 Respect. And this is because we know that this is a support line that so many people need, and we want to make sure that we continue to make a tangible difference to the lives of people across Australia and Swan.
The time allotted for constituency statements has expired. I call the clerk for the next order of business.
Government business. Order of the day number 1. Death of the Honourable Graham Frederick Richardson AO. Resumption of debate on the condolence motion moved by the Prime Minister.
I call the Leader of the House, Minister for Home Affairs, Immigration, Citizenship, Cyber Security and the Arts.
Thanks very much. I rise to pay tribute to a former minister, former senator and dear friend who we recently lost, Graham Frederick Richardson. I use his full name as Frederick because Frederick was the name of his dad. And the experience of his father and the battles that happened within the Postal Workers Union formed a very significant part of Graham forming a view of the importance of winning, on the notion of how personal political fights can be, and effectively a big part of his formation and decision to be involved in the Labor Party. People would know that Graham has been ill for some time, but his death was still unexpected when it came. Some years ago he had some very major operations, but that was not the beginning of the challenges with his health. At the age of 16 there was a very serious car accident and Graham had last rites twice. Both his parents died relatively young, and Graham was always in a rush and always had a sense that he might not always be around. My political formation, a big part of it, some of it happened through my paper run, some of it happened through my concern about a series of environmental issues. But of those environmental issues, the one that I was most passionate about was the Daintree rainforest. And I had posters of the Daintree in my bedroom. I was writing to the then Prime Minister Bob Hawke as a kid, still at school. And eventually, when I joined the Labor Party, at my first branch meeting, the person who followed me up the street after I left, thinking I might never go back to that again, was someone with a mullet, in jeans, black T-shirt, by the name of Morris Yemmer, who had just started working as speechwriter for Graham Richardson. I saw a series of issues I'd been passionate about being delivered by Graham. The Daintree rainforest and wet tropics. We all talk about the Daintree, but the World Heritage listing went across the whole wet tropics. And Don Henry from the Conservation Foundation used to refer to the meeting with Graham where the environmental groups were explaining that they really wanted to save the Daintree and maybe add some of these other forests to it as well. And it was Graham who leant back and said, it's an easier campaign just to do the lot at the start. It was a controversial campaign. While the Daintree had its incredible significance of being that spot where rainforest and reef meet, you had some communities who were very angry of it, and it's sort of a lesson in the culture of protest that in that legendary visit where Graham was always willing to confront people he disagreed with, give them his view. He would often, in speeches, acknowledge that not everybody in the room voted Labor, but he believed they had a right to be wrong and he would defend that right. And when he turned up at Ravenshoe, it looked to the TV cameras like an absolute riot against him. People shouting, it had that apprehension of the possibility of violence. And Graham, rather than being intimidated by it, the moment he got into the car to leave, with the shouting and what most people would have thought had been a disaster, he turned to, I think it was David Tierney, was the one in the car with him, and said, well, we've just won that debate in the public, knowing exactly how it would look on the TV screens. But it wasn't just the Daintree, the Lemmantime Forest in Tasmania, the Southern Forests, the work with Kakadu with respect to Coronation Hill. These are all legacies that will outlive Graham and are still there now, and as he would say, would even outlive his memory. These are conservation decisions that are around forever. But of course, while that was the issue that had got me active in many ways when I first joined the Labor Party, and Graham was such a champion of it, the speeches at the New South Wales State Conference were something different. And most people have never been to a New South Wales Labor conference, but it is a gathering of more than 1,000 people in the Sydney Town Hall. The seats, to get a sense of it, are not facing the stage, they're facing each other. It is a conference designed for conflict. And there would be the champion of the left speeches would be given by John Faulkner, and he would say some terrible things about the group that I was part of. And we would always know, and in fact, from time to time, John Faulkner would conclude his speech by saying, and the next thing that will happen in this debate will be that Graham Richardson will follow me. I haven't seen the speaking list, but every time I've spoken in the last 10 years, Graham Richardson has followed me, and he would. We even had conferences when they would get boring, and when the conference got particularly boring, Graham and John would manufacture a fight just to keep the delegates interested and engaged. He had a way of expressing himself and an absolute confidence and a way of asserting authority and power that he'd learnt from John Ducker, and always attributed John Ducker for that, which gave Graham, gave Richo a capacity to really be able to carry a majority. And his description as to what he expected of the delegates was he would always say, "You know who your friends are when they vote for you, even when you are wrong." And there were a couple of occasions, including some resolutions, one in particular, which was fairly directly designed to stop someone from ever getting into the federal parliament, which the fact that that's wrong is that person's now Prime Minister of Australia. But Graham then, when he came back to the ministry in 1993, after the Keating victory, he became Health Minister, and I had the privilege of being able to be the most junior member of his staff. And in working for Graham, I saw that capacity to be able to engage with everybody, whether you agreed or disagreed, and to find a way of getting your agenda through. Prior to 1993, and in terms of engagement with different organisations, this is something that sounds difficult to believe, but the then Labor government had got to the point where the Health Minister and the head of the AMA, the Australian Medical Association, didn't talk and hadn't talked for years. There was no communication at all. So the Australian Medical Association would run ads against Medicare and against the government every election campaign, and in response the approach of the then ministers was to simply say, well, we don't need to talk to you, there's no point. Richo decided that wasn't the way to get things done, and if you wanted to have serious reform, you needed to engage. But he had a technique. So every time a speech would be prepared for him, and Brett Gale, the speechwriter, and before him Maurice Yammer as speechwriter, just had to put up with the fact that Graham would insist every word of a speech would have to be written out. The fully written speech would be there. He would then tell the audience that he approved the speech. He'd then wait till he got there and say to the audience, well, I've been given a speech. You are not all good people, but you do not deserve this speech. Bag the speech, put it to one side and then go. The AMA one was a little bit different. Every time Brett Gale wrote a version of the speech, Graham said to him, not tough enough. They were the biggest donor to the Liberal campaign. You need to go harder. It went through 4 or 5 revisions until it was a blistering attack that he was there as the first Labor minister to turn up to their conference in years. Graham then, having distributed the speech to the media, embargoed against delivery, then said his usual thing about he wasn't going to use the speech, but instead of bagging it, he said, There's a speech that I've prepared. You've got copies of it. You deserve it. But at some point, we need to start working together. One of us has to take the first step, and I'm taking that now. As a method of engagement, of just owning exactly where he disagreed with people, being crystal clear about it, not taking a backward step, but also saying, if we care about Australia, we have to find a way to work together, was something that was a real shift, and something that I have to say in an extraordinary way I really learnt from Graham. I was devastated the day it was announced that he was resigning. For ministerial staff, or electorate staff as well, there is a real sense of what happens to me next on the days that the person you work for decides that they're leaving. Graham hit the phones and made sure that every single member of his staff was still going to be employed. Didn't have to do it, but continued to do that, and then also made sure some people on staff wanted books signed. One person asked for Machiavelli's The Prince to be signed, and I asked for a reference. Graham wrote me a reference. It said, "Reference for Anthony Stephen Burke. Tony is a mate, Graham Richardson." He assured me it was all I would ever need. After politics, Graham kept in touch with his staff. There were annual gatherings for some time, and once I got into Parliament, on your toughest days, the phone would ring, and it would be Graham. It'd be Graham taking you through how the different challenges and how he thought you might be able to find a way forward. Of course, the other time when Graham would always be on the phone, and sometimes you'd get him more than once a day, was whenever there was leadership instability, because Graham always had a view on what he thought the future of the party should be, and he was not backward in giving his views on that. Of course, he ended up post-politics with a wide variety of friendships, including on the other side of politics as well. Because of his work in recent years, I know that it's not just the Labor Party family that's grieving the loss of Graham, but it's also people around the chamber, and also in the press gallery, in particular his friends at Sky News. Graham had a knack of getting different groups of people together for lunches. Every group probably thought they were the inner circle. Because once he'd settled on a group, that'd be the group that would meet for the regular lunches. And he'd always be there. He'd choose the restaurant, he'd order the wine, and he would hold court and then listen and try to get his best sense as to where people were up to and where they were at. His dear friends, Leo Macleay and Peter Barron, were the inner circle. And it would have meant the world to Graham that at the moment that he passed, two of the people in the room there with him were Leo Macleay and Peter Barron. I've known Graham's family for almost as long as I've known Graham. And on my birthday, and you all know when my birthday was because I announced it to Parliament, but when it was my birthday, I got a message that night from Richo I got a message that night from Richo saying, "We need to have lunch again." And the next day, he said who he was going to invite to the lunch, and of course it was the same group of us where he pretended that we were the only lunch group that would get together. My birthday was on the Tuesday. The message about having lunch was on the Wednesday. And on the Saturday, my phone lit up with Graham Richardson. But it wasn't Graham on the phone, it was Amanda. And Amanda, it was only hours after they'd lost Graham, explained how suddenly everything had come on. And the day before, for the first time, even though Richo had, as I said, last rites back when he was 16 and had some terrible moments of health, acknowledged he was dying and had died in the very early hours of that morning. But Amanda said that Graham had always committed that he was going to, no matter how much pain, he wasn't living comfortably, but he was determined to stay alive to see Darcy finish school. Yeah. Darcy finished his final exam the day before, and he was able to deliver on that commitment. The friendships of the people who were around the table at Graham's lunches will all continue. My personal friendship with Amanda, and I hope a growing friendship with Darcy, is something that I hope to carry for all of my life. The advice and the understanding of what can be achieved in this place, often achieved with Graham always wanting to maintain the facade of the tough, no-compromises politician, the title of the book, whatever it takes. But I've got to say that's not the person I saw. I saw the moments of deep disappointment. I saw the moments of frailty and working issues through. I also saw the moments where he knew but wasn't telling us that he was going to leave, and decided the best thing he could do as Health Minister, while he still had the authority and all his colleagues and the expenditure review people putting the budget together thought he was staying, was to use all his political capital to try to get the best possible outcome for Indigenous health. And he did that, waited for it to get through, and once the cabinet decisions had been made on that, decided it was time to tap the mat. Australia's a better place because Graham Richardson decided to engage in politics, and the Labor Party has had a mentor who we have deeply valued, who has been a strong character, a tough character, and at times an uncompromising character. Graham would be the first to acknowledge he wasn't perfect, but I'm so glad we had him, and I'm so glad for his family that they were willing to share him with Australia. God bless Richo. We miss you. All the best.
The question is the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Deputy Speaker, I'd like to, of course, follow on from the remarks of the previous speaker in paying respect to the life of Graham Richardson. Deputy Speaker, on the Tuesday before his passing, my phone lit up and I got an SMS, and it started with, "Mate, you look good on the ABC News tonight. Hope you are well." And I replied, and I hope he doesn't mind me of breaching confidences, "Thanks, Richo. I still owe you lunch." "Ha ha, yes, you keep promising that." "Well, I do. I'm just pointing out I haven't forgotten," was my response. And then I went on to say, "Outside of an expletive show, how do you see our internal games at the moment?" I won't repeat what happened thereafter, except to finish by finishing my SMS exchange by saying, "Hence I asked." That certainly reflects the engagement I had with Graham Richardson. Forthright, honest, private, apart from, of course, what's now read into the parliamentary Hansard, about someone of a political, it's odd to say mentor from somebody from the other side of politics, but somebody who actually sought me out and started to engage during his media career. I didn't know him in the time when he was in this place. I only read about his political career well after it was gone. I have a dog-eared copy of Whatever It Takes, not through a component of scholarship, but simply because somebody gave me a copy, a second-hand copy, when I was an adult, and it's a reflection very much on the use and wielding of political power. But he was clearly a large-than-life figure when he was in this place and down the road. And you hear that from the speakers who have honoured his life and his legacy and his achievements as a minister, but more clearly as a significant contributor to the Labor movement. There's a certain fondness that I think we all must have when condolence motions are made from whatever side of politics, when you have a partisan who's held in such, I don't know whether it's rancour or esteem, or perhaps a mixture of both, by people on the same side of politics, that there's nonetheless an affection and warmth because at least they were in the fight together. And so I honour very much his legacy as a member of the Labor Party and his contribution to it, though obviously sometimes I probably disagreed vehemently with what he was fighting for. He used to regularly taunt me when he was doing his television shows on Sky News, sometimes when I was on his program and sometimes when I was not, and he'd say, "I don't know about that, Tim Wilson. He could have potentially been a member of the Labor Party until he heard my views, and then he suddenly would adjust." But it showed that he was always prepared to have a laugh, have a go, and with a smile to engage on the important issues at the time. And so I always enjoyed his counsel and always enjoyed his friendship. So the question is, Deputy Speaker, why did I owe him lunch? The reason I owed him lunch was because in the lead-up to the 2022 election, we took a bet live on air about the result of that election. I lost the bet in more ways than one. But as a consequence...
Order. A division has been called for in the House. The proceedings will now be suspended to enable honourable members to attend the division, and the proceedings will resume when the Chair of the Federation Chamber is resumed at the conclusion of the division or subsequent divisions. The member for Goldstein in continuation.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I sort of feel it's appropriate that this section of the speech begins almost in the spirit of Richo. I can imagine him saying, well, since I was rudely interrupted by democracy in continuation. So the question is, why did I owe him lunch? And the short answer is, in the lead-up to the 2022 election, live on air, we took a $100 bet about what the outcome was. And as I was saying, Deputy Speaker, I lost that bet in more ways than one. Let's just say that. And when I went to ask for his bank account details on the eve of the election, because I was not oblivious to the realities of the situation, he said, "Next time you're in town, buy me lunch." And then, of course, a few days later, I said, "When am I going to honour the bet?" And, of course, when it came down to it, I never really got to Sydney to be able to honour the bet. Then, of course, he SMS'd me more recently and said, "Actually, I'll buy you lunch," which was very kind and generous of him. But, of course, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm a man who owes my debts, so honours my debts. So, in that spirit, of course, when his widow, Amanda, and Darcy came to Parliament the other day for this motion, I extended, of course, that I still owe them lunch, and I want to make sure that that is honoured, and I extend my warmest condolences to both Amanda and Darcy. I understand how many members have regarded or made comment about the fact that Richo lived to make sure that he could see Darcy finish his secondary education and that now he's going on to university. And I'm sure he would have been enormously proud of that achievement. But whatever it is and whatever contributions Richo made to this world, and it was clearly a colourful life filled with rancour, contest and contribution, and, of course, warmth and friendship. He was nonetheless a figure who I always found him to be incredibly generous, supportive, offered counsel, and was incredibly warm. And so I'll miss him, and I pay tribute to him, but also acknowledge that one day, if I make it to heaven and he happens to be there as well, I promise you, Richo, I will buy you lunch. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I understand it is the wish of honourable members to signify at this stage their respect and sympathy by rising in their places, and I ask that all present do so. Thank the Federation Chamber. Call the member for Cunningham.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I ask leave of the Federation Chamber to move that further proceedings be conducted in the House.
Is leave granted? Is leave granted? Thank you. The member for Cunningham.
I move that further proceedings be conducted in the House.
Member for Casey. Thank you. The question is that further proceedings be conducted in the House. All of that opinion say aye. Against say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. I call the clerk. Oh, sorry, member for Cunningham.
I move that the Federation Chamber do now adjourn.
Thank you. Member for Casey. Those of that... Oh, sorry. The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Rangabite.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Summer is fast approaching. For most, it means time with friends, family and loved ones. Deputy Speaker, summer also gives us all an opportunity to reflect on the year that's been and the one that's coming. In May this year, the Albanese government returned to Canberra with a strengthened mandate, a mandate to continue to work to support Australians who are doing it tough, to keep building the infrastructure our communities deserve and to strengthen the services many people need. One of those services is Medicare. We've now made the biggest investment in the history of Medicare, $8.5 billion, to help ensure more Australians get bulk billed. So all they need is their Medicare card, not their credit card. We're also supporting GPs with incentives flowing to all practices that bulk bill every single patient. Working alongside our investment in bulk billing is our commitment to expand the Medicare Urgent Care Clinic network right across the nation. In my region, we have the Belmont Clinic, which continues to go from strength to strength. And soon, within weeks, Torquay will also be home to an urgent care clinic. This will mean less pressure on our emergency departments in Geelong and access to quality GP services across the busy upcoming holiday period. Urgent care close to home for people right across the Surf Coast. This has been worth fighting for. It'll be open extended hours 7 days a week. And Deputy Speaker, this work is changing lives, and so too is our infrastructure pipeline, particularly in my electorate of Corangamite. This year we hit milestones in some of the more transformative projects across Victoria, from Armstrong Creek Sports Centre to Surf Coast Aquatic and Health Centre and Stage 2 of the Barwon Heads Road. We have some great projects now under construction. One of these projects will make a particularly positive impact for young people in Armstrong Creek, with work now underway to deliver a permanent headspace on the Surf Coast Highway. This new facility will be right near the new sports centre, the library, shopping centre, and easily accessible via public transport, with bus stops right next door. We know how important headspace is for young people right across the nation. Since coming to government in 2022, we've put a real focus on supporting Headspace to make sure young people get the supports they need to thrive and live fulfilling lives. We know that nearly half of young Australians are experiencing high levels of psychological distress, and that's why we're backing Headspace. It's also part of the reason why we're supporting sports clubs right across my electorate to build the infrastructure they need so that more young people, particularly women, can get involved in local sport. We know sport brings people together. It offers an opportunity for people, young and old, to rally around each other, to get through hard times and to have fun. But for that to work, sports clubs need infrastructure that's inclusive. So this summer we're kicking off works on female-friendly upgrades to Spring Creek Reserve in Torquay, with better change rooms so the footy and cricket clubs can better embrace the hundreds of young women keen to get involved in traditionally male sports. Our government has committed to deliver this upgrade. We've put in $700,000 to make this happen, and we're delivering, Deputy Speaker. We are also, in closing, doing some work with our communities to achieving some great things, strengthening services to support the health and wellbeing of Australians, and closely linked to that is building the infrastructure that people need and bring them together, and 3, giving Australians, young and old, the opportunity to thrive, succeed and lead safe, fulfilling lives with changes to our aged care system. So, for my communities across the Surf Coast, Bellarine and the Geelong region, thank you for your support this year. Stay safe and enjoy the summer. Remember to thank our surf lifesavers, our emergency service workers, and ensure that when you go into one of our magnificent businesses that you actually treat staff respectfully, particularly over the busy season ahead. And to all those who are working when the rest of us are enjoying time with family, I wish you well. Have a great festive season. And to my fellow staff, to my fellow MPs across the chamber, I wish you all the very best for a safe and happy time. I hope everyone gets the break that we need. Thank you.
I call the member for Casey.
And last week, my community lost a generous and beloved member of the Yarra Rangers, Ray Yates. Ray was truly immersed in community life. Some called him Mr Monbulk. Others knew him as Mr Yates from Monbulk Primary School, where he taught from the 1970s until 2014, retiring aged 74. He spent 28 years of that time as principal of Monbulk Primary and a total of 54 years in education. And many Monbulk locals had Mr Yates as their principal and also principal for their children. He left a legacy and impacted so many lives and so many generations of the Monbulk community. His impact was so profound, The Age ran an article in his retirement. It sums up his persona well, and it reads, "On Wednesday, he stopped mid-interview to help a weeping preppy, strolling with him through the school he built, a school that was downtrodden when he arrived in 1974, but is now a robust institution and a point of community pride. Arriving at school at 7 a.m, he won't go home until after 6 p.m. Even then, Mr Yates never really goes away. After hours, the main phone number to the school is patched to his mobile phone." And I had the opportunity, Deputy Speaker, a few weeks ago to visit Monbulk Primary School, and it was wonderful to see the children, the thriving school that is an ongoing and everlasting legacy to Ray Yates. Ray also served as Shire Councillor for 21 years and as the Mayor of the Shire of Lilydale. He was a Justice of the Peace, a foundational member of the Monbulk and District Community Working Group, Secretary and Treasurer of the Sylvan Glades Retirement Village, and a long-standing trustee of the Yarra Ranges Regional Museum. He was instrumental in establishing Japara Community House, was closely associated with Monbulk RSL and served as president of Monbulk Rotary. Ray envisaged that having a community bank in Monbulk would generate opportunities for the entire community. He joined in 2012, serving as director, and was instrumental in shaping the legacy of the bank, which gives back so generously to our community to this day. He was board member and CEO of the Dandenong Ranges Music Council from 2011 to 2025, and also supported the Kilsyth Youth Club, supported preschools and assisted local sporting clubs. Ray was a true champion of our community. He wasn't just a member of our towns, he was an architect of community life as we know it. His devoted public service touched every layer of community life. His legacy will live on in every organisation that he touched and the strength that he left them in, the connections that he helped forge and the countless lives that he improved. And I was fortunate, Deputy Speaker, to get to know Ray over the last 3.5 years as the member for Casey. And Ray was a great source of advice, and you could see that pride he had in the community. And I remember a speech that he delivered on Australia Day, at an Australia Day breakfast in Monbulk, talking about opportunity and what it means to be Australian. And you could see that principle come out in him and the lessons that he taught us all that day. Ray gave back so much to our community, and I want to extend my condolences to Ray's wife, Catherine, his family, friends and loved ones, and all those in our community who were privileged to know him. On Monday, we will gather to celebrate, to mourn and pay tribute to Ray Yates. And thank you, Ray, for making our community a better place. Rest in peace. And as we hit the final sitting day, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Here in Parliament and in my community of Casey, I want to say to those CFA volunteers, stay safe this summer. There is dangers, but we know you're well trained and you're well prepared. I want to thank all the community groups who have given so much to our community, particularly the food banks, who are going to be needed more than ever this summer. To our retail workers, our tourism workers, our agriculture workers who don't get a break over summer, I want to pay tribute to you. I hope everyone does get a chance to rest, recover, spend some time with their families. And I will finish by saying I love you to my beautiful wife Rachel on our 15th wedding anniversary. Poetic that I am up here in Parliament. I could not serve our community in Casey without her and her support, and I appreciate everything she's done for me and the community of Casey.
That's got to be some runs on the board. I call the Assistant Minister for Citizenship, Customs and Multicultural Affairs.
Happy wedding anniversary to the member for Casey.
Thank you.
I speak with a heavy heart to acknowledge a tragedy that has deeply affected my community. Fariba Hassanzada and her 6-year-old son Farzad lost their lives in the waters of the Dandenong Creek. Fariba, originally from Afghanistan, had been living in Australia for 10 years. She was a loving mother of 3, and when her little boy slipped into the creek, she did what any parent would instinctively do. She tried to save him. Her bravery in that moment was extraordinary. Unfortunately, both mother and son lost their lives. This devastating loss has torn a family apart, leaving a 4- and a 1-year-old without their mother, and the whole community. It's a tight-knit community in Dandenong and the growing Hazara community. It's left them in mourning. I extend my heartfelt condolences to Fariba and Farzad's family and to the grieving community in my electorate. Please know that we stand with you in this time of grief. I'm proud, Deputy Speaker, to represent the largest community of Australians born in Afghanistan of any MP in this parliament. Afghanistan is a diverse country, rich in cultural traditions and languages, with 14 ethnicities acknowledged in the national anthem, living alongside many other smaller ethnic groups and tribes. Modern Afghanistan has a proud but complex history, sadly marred by tragic cycles of violence. And while there'll never be a single view or truth on history, single view of history, no part of Afghanistan or Afghan society has been immune from violence or persecution, whether Pashtun, Hazara, Tajik, Uzbeks or any other of the ethnic groups. While Australia's relationship with the state of Afghanistan endures, Australia has no intention of accrediting a representative of the Taliban or establishing diplomatic relations with the Taliban. I'm pleased, though, to have formed a new parliamentary friendship group for the people of Afghanistan. This group is to express Australia's support for the people of Afghanistan and to serve as a forum for parliamentarians to engage with advocacy groups, including those working on refugee issues, human rights, women and girls, and international engagement, on issues related to the ongoing humanitarian and economic crisis in Afghanistan and across the broader region, with millions of Afghans displaced. I'll write shortly to all members and senators inviting them to participate. Afghans have long been a part of Australian society, Deputy Speaker, with the Afghan Cameleers arriving from 1860 and helping to explore and develop inland Australia and build our nation. Now, while relatively small in numbers in Australia, subsequent waves of migration from Afghanistan have enriched our country, including people coming as skilled migrants, business migrants, students, and more recently as humanitarian migrants fleeing bloodshed and repression of the Taliban, again since 2021. The Taliban remains one of the world's most medieval regimes, utterly repressing the rights of women and girls against any reasonable or defensible view of human rights in the modern world. Since 2021, Australia has provided more than $260 million in humanitarian and basic needs assistance to Afghanistan, with a strong focus on women and girls. And almost 27 visas have been granted to Afghan nationals under the Offshore Humanitarian Program, in significant part to the locally engaged employees who worked for 20 years with Australia's Defence and Foreign Affairs and aid staff in Afghanistan, fulfilling the promise as best we possibly can in difficult circumstances to bring them to safety. It comes amidst in the year that we mark the 1 millionth humanitarian migrant that Australia's welcomed since World War II, a bipartisan endeavour over decades. Now, I will always stand up, speak up and work with all parts of my community. Like any responsible leader in Australia, I've never sought and never will seek to weaponise ethnic or religious divisions. It's important that every political, religious and community leader set a positive example for young people of inclusion and working together. Let's hope that this friendship group allows us to recommit to working together here in Australia in a spirit of trust to build a positive future for the whole community and doing what we can internationally with other nations to improve the lives of those still suffering outside our borders. I'll finish on this with a note of thanks to my staff. The bulk of the work of my electorate office relates still to the ongoing trauma of the Taliban and the Afghan community as people flood the office every day seeking to bring their families to safety. We do as much as we humanly can, but a lot of that burden falls on the staff. They speak Pashto, Dari, Hazaragi, Farsi, and do the very best they can, and I thank them deeply for the trauma that they endure.
I call the member for Dawson.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Across this nation, families are sweating, not just because they can't afford to run the air conditioner, but because of the fear of the next power bill landing in their letterbox. Small businesses are closing, not from the lack of customers, but because their energy bills have become the silent partner taking the biggest cut. What kind of economy is Labor running when a cafe can afford the coffee beans but can't afford the electricity to boil the water? Australian manufacturers aren't being beaten by better products, they're being beaten by competitors having access to cheaper power overseas, and a government that makes them pay more to produce less. And through all of this, Labor has gone to war with the very industries that keep this country running. They have demonised gas, and now they're trying to write coal out of Australia's economic future. Deputy Speaker, Paget is one of the most important industrial precincts in Australia, and it sits in my electorate of Dawson. It's the largest industrial hub in Queensland outside the southeast corner. Every day in Paget, thousands of highly skilled workers design, build and manufacture the heavy machinery that keeps our mines operating, our exports moving and our national economy afloat. If Paget stops, the coal supply chain stops. If that stops, billions in export revenue completely disappear. It is the engine room of regional Queensland. And let's not forget our future industries. Hydrogen doesn't appear from thin air. Its production requires a lot of energy. Critical minerals don't refine themselves, and advanced manufacturing doesn't run on hope. They all rely on the energy backbone of coal and gas. Every engineer, every economist, every serious energy analysis knows this. The government knows it too, but they won't admit it. So I ask, why is Labor so eager to destroy the industries that pay for everything else? Deputy Speaker, the future of our economy will not come from weakening the industries that have made it strong. It will not come from strangling regional hubs like Paget or vilifying the people who keep the lights on. It will come from energy that is affordable and reliable, and that means gas, it means coal, and yes, it means nuclear. Now let's talk about gas, and I'll put this plainly. Australia does not have a gas shortage. This government has a vision shortage. We have the gas. What we don't have is the leadership to extract it. Eastern manufacturers are paying international prices for Australian gas. Households are paying energy bills shaped by export indexes, not national supply. By gaslighting the nation, the Albanese Labor government has turned rhetoric into reality. The East Coast faces looming blackouts due to intermittent supply shortfalls and surging costs. We need a coordinated national gas infrastructure strategy, a shovel-ready blueprint that treats gas as a strategic capability and an economic enabler, not an afterthought. Deputy Speaker, Australians have been let down by this government. They were promised cheaper power. Instead, household bills have skyrocketed by 40%. They were promised a $275 decrease in power. Instead, they're paying around $1,300 more. This government said net zero would lower power bills. Instead, it has pushed them through the roof and delivered no meaningful emissions progress, none at all. Emissions today are exactly the same as when the Coalition left office. So after 3 years of slogans, nothing has changed, except power bills going through the roof. This government loves to hurl insults at anyone who questions their failing policies. But every general knows where the flak is the thickest, you're right over the target. And we know we are on target with the Coalition's cheaper, better and fairer energy plan. The question is no longer whether Labor's plan is working. The question is, will the government admit the truth before it's too late? And Deputy Speaker, I would like to acknowledge Mr Carl Walker, who's in the gallery today. Carl is a friend of mine and the chairman of the Bowen Gumlu Growers Association. He's been the chairman for quite some time, so we would really like to thank you for everything that you've done, not just for the Bowen Gumloo growers, but also for agriculture within Australia. You're outstanding.
I call the member for Petrie.
The Labor government is delivering real change for Australians. Not abstract promises, not slogans, but concrete action that is actually directly improving the lives of locals in my community. For too long, young Australians have felt like the system has been stacked against them. They study hard, they do everything that's asked of them, yet they finish their degrees and walk straight into a lifetime of debt. That is why the Albanese Labor government introduced a major change that will make a significant difference. We are reducing student debts by 20%. This is one of the most meaningful investments in young Australians in a generation. It is practical cost of living relief. It is acknowledgement that education should open doors, not close them. Very soon, over 22,000 locals in Petrie are getting 20% taken off of their student debt. No applications, no forms, you don't need to do anything. This is a one-off reduction that will be applied automatically by the Australian Taxation Office. And when the deduction is applied, you'll get a text from the ATO letting you know. Labor promised to cut student debt, and our Albanese Labor government is delivering. This is a game changer for more than 3 million Australians with student debt. Labor believes in education. We believe it builds opportunity, equality and prosperity. Over 20%, our 20% reduction means thousands of Australians will finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. It means teachers, nurses, tradies, social workers, community workers will all be able to move forward in their lives without the growing financial burdens holding them back. At the same time, we are strengthening our commitment to protecting the Australian environment. Our country is home to some of the most unique ecosystems on the planet, but we have watched biodiversity decline, native species disappear, habitat destruction accelerate and the increased ferocity of storms. This is why we are proud to be introducing new, stronger environmental legislation. It creates clearer national standards, it restores accountability to environmental decision-making, and it gives Australians confidence that development, economic growth and environmental protection can be balanced responsibly. This legislation is not about stopping progress. It is about ensuring progress is sustainable. It is about future generations inheriting the bush, the rivers, the reefs and the wildlife that define our national identity. It is about protecting the places that make Australia home. I want to thank all of the environmental groups and community activists such as ESRAG, Queensland Conservation Council, Greenpeace and the Redcliffe Environmental Forum for their ongoing contributions and support of these reforms, and to the residents who raise their voices on these matters. I want to acknowledge the work of Minister Watt and Minister Plibersek and Special Envoy Kate Thwaites on these important, long overdue reforms. Another critical issue facing our country is the impact of social media on young people. Every parent I speak with tells me the same thing. Children are being exposed to content that they should never see. They are being targeted by algorithms no parent can monitor. They are facing bullying, exploitation, social pressures that previous generations never had to endure. The evidence is clear. Social media is harming kids. So we are taking action. The government's upcoming social media ban for under 16-year-olds is going to let kids be kids. It ensures that children can grow up safely without being pulled into the online world that is not designed for their well-being. This reform supports parents, it empowers families, and it strengthens the guardrails for our youngest Australians. We cannot reduce harm by wishing it away. We reduce harm by acting responsibly and decisively. And while we focus on the next generation, we are also delivering for every single person who relies on our healthcare system. Just let you know, that's every single Australian. When Labor came into government, bulk billing was collapsing. Families were waiting weeks to see a GP, only to be hit with fees they could not afford. That is why we tripled the bulk billing incentive. It is why we have delivered the largest strengthening of Medicare since it was created. The results are speaking for themselves. Bulk billing rates are rising once again. More families are seeing a GP without reaching into their pockets. This is what Medicare is meant to be: universal, accessible, affordable. It is the foundation of Australian life, and we are proud to be the party that built it, protected it, and is now rebuilding it stronger than it ever was. To every student struggling with debt, to every parent trying to keep their children safe online, to every Australian who wants their environment protected and our Medicare system strengthened, we see you, we hear you, and we are delivering for you.
I call the member for Barker.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, Mr Deputy Speaker, I wish to draw the House's attention to a federal court judgment. It was a judgment of Justice Wigney delivered on the 15th of July of this year in the case of Pabai and another versus the Commonwealth of Australia. It's significant for a reason that I'll make clear. The case involved a group of Torres Strait Islanders who argued that the Commonwealth had been negligent in not protecting them from climate change. Justice Wigney helpfully summarised the government's defence in this case. The defence, by the way, that was authorised by this government via this government's Attorney-General. Justice Wigney says the Commonwealth, on the other hand, submitted that it had no control over the risks of harm to Torres Strait Islanders from the impacts of climate change. It is not a problem over which Australia alone has any or any significant control. Australia's targets alone are unlikely to have any impact on climate change or the risks posed by its impacts. Well, Mr Deputy Speaker. On the one hand, we have a government that at question time and at every opportunity tells us that if we don't pursue these unrealistic and unachievable carbon emissions reduction targets, then effectively we will be facing bushfires, cyclones and all manner of climate risks. But on the other hand, quietly, away in the federal court, instructions are provided to council to make the very opposite submissions. And I repeat, the Commonwealth, on the other hand, submitted, in a court no less, the Federal Court of Australia, that it had no control over risk to harm to Torres Strait Islanders. This is a government, Mr Deputy Speaker, that believes deeply in the maxim of do as we say, not as we do. Lay bare the hypocrisy of those opposite. And I look forward to the Minister for Climate Change, if he can keep the lights on during question time, advising the House of how it is that the government made that submission to the Federal Court when its rhetoric, both in question time and every other opportunity, is directly the opposite. Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise to draw the attention of the House, courtesy of a whistleblower in my electorate, of a proposed wind farm in Killara in the south-east of South Australia, and to highlight what I think are some true costs. The proposal would see 80 to 100 turbines of between 5 and 7 megawatts rolled out across an 18,000-hectare patch. Landholders have been contacted. It would involve not only the turbines but a high-voltage transmission line. Problem is, Mr Deputy Speaker, the high-voltage transmission line doesn't exist. It would require a new 300-kilometre double-circuit 275 kVI line from Mount Gambier to Tailem Bend, effectively. Now, Electronet previously, at stage 1 of this proposal, which is South East Stage 2, has built Stage 1, which is Tunkillo to Tailem Bend, at a cost of $1.45 billion, meaning this project would run to $5 to $6 billion. So if constituents are wondering why the power bills are going up, well, these are the kind of projects that have to be paid for. I'm concerned in particular, Mr Deputy Speaker, there's no real rehabilitation bond required in these projects, unlike mining and gas projects. I'm concerned that the developer and ultimately the asset owner may not be liquid at the time that these turbines ultimately fall into disrepair. Others in this place have made clear that the cost per turbine for decommissioning in today's dollars range between anything between $250,000 and $1 million. Of course, we know of the risks. There's blade rot, blade shear, PFAS chemicals, lubricants. We hear this week in the place that asbestos is present in some of the wind farm breaks, etc. There have been concerns raised by Livestock SA, and I share those concerns. The bottom line, Mr Deputy Speaker, and one I want to deliver directly to potential hosts of these assets. Firstly, insist on a rehabilitation bond. Secondly, get independent legal advice, and that doesn't mean speaking to the developer's lawyer. Do your homework. Demand guarantees around soil, water and livestock protection. This is your asset and you must take action to protect it.
The question is that the motion be agreed to, so all of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it, and the Federation Chamber stands adjourned until 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026.